Hey guys, welcome. Today we'll be looking at deploying a Nuxt app with Caddy. So the very first thing we'll probably need is a Nuxt app that is set up and ready to go. So let's do npx nuxi init and call this the Nuxt Caddy app. And this source code will be in the description. After initializing the Nuxt app, let's go into it. And then install all the dependencies. After we installed all the dependencies, let's check out the Nuxt app by running pnpm dev and then opening that up in our local browser. So this is just the basic Nuxt starter. I think we'll leave it at that when we deploy the first version to the virtual private server, and then from there on, let's build a little app and show you how to implement custom domains with Caddy. So for this video, I'm going to be using Hetzner Cloud to run up a little server. The thing is that the pricing is pretty good. They have USA, Germany, and Finland, and they are using the new Ampere Ultra processors, which is pretty cool. And you can see that they charge by the hour, and it ends up being like almost $5 or €4.50 to run a two-core virtual CPU with 4 gig RAM, some disk space, and some traffic. Alright, so once you've created an account, you will probably have no projects. I have one project in my Hetzner Cloud. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call this Nuxt Caddy. And then in here we can just create a new server. And do keep in mind that this will cost you some money if you keep it running. But for this, I'm just going to launch it and then probably just delete it right afterwards. Alright, with the key added, you can see I added my SSH key, and I should be able to connect from my local Windows subsystem for Linux. Out for config, we can leave that out for now. I'm going to rename this server to Nuxt Caddy. What did we call the project? I'm just going to call this Nuxt Caddyserver. And there we go. So we got all that. And let's buy it. Boom. I do have a card added, so I'm pretty sure it just accepted my details. And my wife's going to keep wondering why all these domain and server costs keep going. So you can see the public IP of my server right now. And we'll connect to that IP with SSH. Let's try that out. So let's do SSH, probably the root user at this IP. Yes, I would like to. And there you have it. We have connected to our root user. And now for the magic. So what we want to do is we want to add Caddy to our remote server. And you can go to the Caddy documentation. I'll leave the link in the description to install. So this is all the steps that we need to take. And we know we do have Ubuntu installed. Okay, so let's install the Caddy server. So first we have to add all these. All right, and then we want to download the GPG key and pipe that. And then we want to run this one. And then finally, we want to run update and install. We did already update, but I think we need to run that again because of what we just added. There we go. And then install Caddy. Boom. So Caddy should be installed now. We can have a look by running Caddy, maybe -v. Okay, so but it did work. Can we do something like version? Cool. So we do have Caddy. And to check out your Caddy file, I wonder if I have nano. Yes, I do. So to check out your Caddy file, you can do nano etc and then Caddy and then Caddy file. And the Caddy file, let me just increase this, is basically like what they say. It's an easy way to configure your Caddy web server unless the file starts with a global options block. The first uncommented line is always the address of your site. So what this is doing is, if you check out, this is basically specifying a port that it should expose, and it's looking at the file, the Caddy folder where there are files for static file server, and then you basically just say file server. And so basically what this is saying is, from this folder enable the file server, and yeah, that's about it. Now you have a local host running if you do that. But we're not going to use it in this way. We're going to do reverse proxies, and then instead of running a port over here, we're going to say the domain that we want to allow to connect. So before we continue, it's not really convenient to keep working in Nano on the terminal, and I could maybe use Vim or something, but I'm a GUI kind of guy, so I'm going to use Remote Explorer to connect to the code base via my VS Code. But first, what I'm going to do is, let's push this to GitHub. So I'm going to create a GitHub repo with the same name and then push that up so that I can clone it within the server, and then we can connect to that folder within the server from VS Code and keep coding from there. So I've created a repository, and now I'm going to say I wonder if Git is initialized. So let's do git init, git remote add origin, and then there we go, the remote is added, and then we can do git add, git commit init, and then just push that by using origin main. So I want to switch from, so I'm going to do git branch -m main, and then push, and then use the origin main as well. There we go. So we have pushed that up, and now we can reconnect to our container and then just pull that into the. Alright, so let's do SSH, again the root user at this. And I'm gonna create the sort of the root of this in another path. So I'm gonna do cd user source, and all I'm going to do is say git clone git at github.com, I probably need to not use SSH and use the URL method. So I'm going to say https github.com, and then instead of this we can do that. There we go. So I want to remove the app folder that I just created, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the Nuxt Caddy app to app. And then if we cd to app, we should see all of that. Okay, so obviously now I don't think we have Node installed, so we have to install Node.js. Alright, so using the nifty SSH tool in VS Code called remote containers, I believe, remote SSH, I was able to connect to the Caddy instance via SSH. And then what we want to do is open a folder in our remote. Well, we created the folder called user source and then app. And then let's just open that up. And it's setting up the VS Code tunnel. So now you can see I've added this port in this section, but nothing will work now because we are in like a bare server. So if we do node version, you can see that there is no node version. So what I'm going to do first is install node, and we can go to nodejs.org. I think the best way to install Node right now is just to use NVM. Not the best way, but certainly the easiest way for me right now. What I'm going to do is just copy this script, go back to our remote connection, let's see if we have NVM now. I think we need to restart this terminal session. Let's try and do source there we go, so no node version. And what I want to do is I'm going to install the latest LTS of Node, so the latest long-term support version. You can see now we've installed Node, and we should have version 18, which is great. And then I'm immediately going to install pnpm. And if we check it out now, we have pnpm installed, and we can run in our app folder, we can run pnpm install. After we've installed our dependencies, we can check it out. We can try running dev. And then you can see the application is running in port. That's actually quite crazy that it's just picking it up. And we have a local version of our app running from our remote container. So that is pretty cool. Which means like none of this is actually using space on your computer. And this is like a live IPv6 sort of URL, and I don't think this will work if you, let's say if you try and type this in. Might work, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's pretty cool. It's got like a little tunnel. Yeah, so we have a Nuxt app running, but this is just running on localhost, sort of with a dev command. And what we really want to do is we want to have a domain, and we want to point that domain to a production version of this running. So let's get into that. So first of all, let's close down the server, and I'm going to run pnpm build. And this will build the Nuxt app in .output. And I'm going to add a serve command, but before we add the serve command, let's add a project called pm2. So yeah, we can run global. Let's add it as a dev for now. pm2 is a project that helps manage node processes. So even if you log out of your machine or the machine shuts down and starts back up, pm2 can manage your node server for you. And the way I'm going to put this is I'm going to say like start in the package.json, I'm going to say pm2 dot output, and I think it's going to be server and then index.mjs, I believe. Server, yeah. So that's going to run the server. So we can actually try that just by running pnpm start, and we get some issues. Oh, I have to put start. Okay, let's try again. And there we go. You can see that the node server is running in the background. I don't think we'll have a tunnel for that, but let's see the logs. No. So let's do pnpm add -g pm2. So we wanted to have it as a global command as well. Okay, pnpm setup. Okay, perfect. So now I should be able to do install -g, no, not install, pm2. So now that I have pm2 installed, I can do pm2 logs, and you can see that Nuxt is listening on HTTP 3000. And if we try our live site, you can see the tunnel is still open. And this is like a completely, automatically running server. But we want to sort of tweak this a little bit, because we know we have more than one core, so we can add some load balancing. So you can see that the index is running, because I didn't give it a name. It's using that much memory, 0 CPU, and it hasn't restarted. But what I want to do is actually pm2 stop all, and then pm2, I think, remove all, pm2 delete all. Cool, so we have nothing. So what I want to do in start is I'm going to say -i, and -i basically just lets you set how many sort of threads you want to run this on. So you can have 2 instances of your app running at the same time on different threads, which could help handle some incoming requests. I think I need to say like max, but I'm just going to try it with just the I, and then I'm going to give it a name. Oh, let's do max, and then name is going to be Nuxt Caddy. Let's see if that works. And there we go. You can see that I've just started 2 of the same apps, each using their own little memory block, running on different threads on the CPU, and they have names. So if you ever want to like restart the app, I can just go pm2 restart -app Nuxt Caddy, and then it restarts that process. And lastly, what we want to do to make this sort of a little bit more production ready is say pm2 startup. And what this does is it creates a sort of daemon running in your processes, that when your system shuts down and it starts up again, then your Nuxt app will start up along with it. You can see that it created a service that will run with system control, and then the way we tell it what we should reboot, we currently have a running services. So first you have to spin up your services, and then once that's running, you just tell it to save whatever your configuration is now, and then it'll know what to start up next time your system starts up. So even if your server restarts online, something like that, you don't have to worry. You'll be down for those few seconds maybe that your system restarts, but if you're not at your PC or something like that, it'll start up by itself. Cool. So we can do pm2 logs just to make sure everything's running. There we go. and the ports are still open. Let's see if we can still load the web page. Perfect. So we've got a running web page. So just to have the Caddy file available in the repo, I'm gonna put an example in here. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna say copy the etc Caddy and then Caddy file to this folder's Caddy file. Maybe let's say .example. So now this will help whoever goes to the GitHub repo. So we have all these comments and stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all that for now. I'm going to actually leave that, remove this. And really, getting a domain set up is as easy as something like this. I'm going to say Nuxt caddy.kaizen.com.na. So obviously you need to own the domain that you want to use, and you should point in your Cloudflare or wherever you manage your domain, you should point the A record. So actually I should probably comment this. You should own the domain. Point the A record to the IP of your server. And yeah, that's about it. So I'll create an A record for that and then just say point to the IP of the server. And then for this, I'm just going to remove all that and say set up a reverse proxy. And it's literally as easy as this. Boom. That's the most basic setup you can have. I mean, this is 7 lines of code and you've just enabled a domain on your application. And now that my Cloudflare is pointing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this back. Move the Caddy file.example to etc Caddy. I think this is going to conflict with the existing one, but let's try. Okay, it looks like that worked. Yeah, cool. So it did replace it. And then the way you get that working is you have to restart your Caddy so it loads the new configuration. So I'm going to restart the Caddy service. And check its status. Okay, looks all right. Looks like something's happening. And you can see that right after I pointed my domain, if I look at the Caddy logs, you can see successfully downloaded certificate chains and then certificate obtained successfully for Nuxt Caddy. So that means that just right after I pointed it, it just immediately knew that it should sort of allocate that certificate, which is kind of crazy and cool. And which also means we should be able to firstly check if this works. So we can go to what's my DNS. Let's do nuxtcaddy.kaizen.com.na. And boom, it's picking it up and it's pretty much propagated. There are a few locations. It's funny that it's not propagated in Germany because that's actually where the server is. But it looks like it's working. And for now in Cloudflare, I didn't enable the proxy orange cloud thingy. I just made it directly. So we could try out loading the page. .com.na. Please work. Boom. certificate issued, and domain working. We now have a live running version of our application. So this is a domain that's actually live right now, and maybe I've stopped it because I've exposed all my IPs and everything. But if it's not stopped, you can go try it out. Maybe leave the link in the repo or the comments. So that's how you can add a running web server in Caddy. And I'm going to push this code to GitHub, and then I'll start recording the next video. And this time I'm actually going to upload both at the same time, or just after each other, instead of waiting a month. Sorry for doing that to you guys, but yeah, thanks for watching this part 1, and make sure to check out part 2. If you want to support the channel, you can check out the description. There's a link for helping out, but a like is good enough, and a subscribe is great too.